my name is Malisa and I'm currently in Sri Lanka with PMGY. So Sri Lanka is one of the most beautiful countries I've ever traveled to, and I would definitely recommend you to see some of the amazing highlights that Sri Lanka has to offer. So in this video, I'm going to tell you guys about one of the weekend trips that they run in Sri Lanka, and it's called the Cultural Triangle and Elephant Weekend Trip. So one of the best things with this weekend trip is that you can see a lot of Sri Lanka in such an easy and structured manner. The distances are quite long and it can be a bit of a challenge to figure out your own way around Sri Lanka. So for me, this was such a good way to see all of the top highlights in a really easy way. So if you sign up to the weekend trip with PMGY, you will have your accommodation included, you will have all your meals, transportation, and also all the activities that you do during the weekend. So usually when you book onto the weekend trip, that's something you can do when you're still at home and sorting out your bookings. But we do actually recommend to wait until you're in Sri Lanka to actually book your weekend trip. So it's important to note that during the peak season, like the European summer months, these trips can potentially become full, but that's usually not a problem. So the reason why we recommend to wait until you're in Sri Lanka to book onto the trip is because you're going to make friends, you're going to meet other volunteers, and people really want to travel together during the weekends. Alright guys, so I'm going to tell you a bit more about the structure of the weekend trip, starting with Friday, which is going to be your first day. So you will first have your breakfast at the volunteer house, and then we're ready to go. We have a couple hours of drive coming, so we stop by a supermarket to buy some snacks and some drinks. Our second stop is at a place called Dambulla, and that's where we're going to have our buffet lunch. It was a beautiful place and they had all types of food, including more Sri Lankan food and a bit of Western options. Then we have a little drive before we're reaching the Jeep Safari. And this was something that I had been looking forward to for such a long time because I've heard a lot of good things about the safari. It's a national park and it's supposed to be the home to over 200 elephants, and there is a lot of tropical birds, crocodiles, and a lot of other animals. So altogether, the safari lasted for around 2 to 3 hours, and it was an amazing drive through the whole national park. And I can tell you, we saw loads of elephants and a lot of baby elephants, and it was just such a main character moment, just roaming around in the safari, and it was beautiful. On the way back from the safari, the jeeps were driving all the way back, and we had the sunset and we had the wind blowing, and it was really nice all together. After the Jeep Safari is finished, we go to a place called Sigiriya, and that's where we're going to be staying for the night. So we checked into the hotel and we also had a buffet style dinner all together before getting a good night of sleep and getting ready for an early morning next day. The second day of the weekend trip is Saturday, and on today's itinerary we're hiking Lion's Rock. So Lion's Rock is actually one of the 8 modern wonders of the world, and this was something that I had been really looking forward to, as I know it's a must-see and a highlight when traveling in Sri Lanka. So we decided to turn this hike into a sunrise hike because we wanted to avoid the most intense hours of heat, and we also wanted to get a glimpse of the sunrise. We left the hostel around 5 a.m. in the morning and getting ready to hike. So in itself, the hike is not a difficult one, and when you reach the top, you're definitely going to be rewarded by a gorgeous view. So we had some time to spend around when we reached the top, and also have a look at the cute monkeys who were roaming around. When we came back to the hotel, we had a couple hours of free time where we could grab a solid breakfast, and we could also spend a couple hours by the pool to just relax and getting ready for the next activities. After packing our bags and checking out of the hotel, we were ready to go and visit a temple called the Golden Dambulla Temple. This temple hosts one of the largest golden Buddha statues in the whole world, and it was such a nice experience to see a bit of the cultural practices from the local people and also walk around the area to get some good photos of the statue. After that, we were ready to drive toward Kandy, and Kandy is one of the biggest and most famous cities in Sri Lanka, and a place where a lot of tourists go because they do have some special temples and a lot of markets. On the way to Kandy, we stopped by a herbal and spice plantation. So this was a really cool and interesting experience where the guides were telling us about how natural medicine and how herbs are used to heal people. And we also got to taste some of the local teas, and they had a shop where we could see if there was anything we wanted to buy. I actually bought a local mosquito spray, which is supposed to be completely organic and good for the skin. Then when we reached Kandy, we checked into our hotel where we had a buffet style dinner before getting a good night of sleep. Sunday is the last day of the weekend trip, and this day is dedicated to explore a bit more of Kandy. We started off with a good breakfast at the hotel before heading to a temple called the Temple of the Tooth. This temple is built in the 17th century and it holds Buddha's tooth, making it one of the most sacred and famous temples in the whole of Sri Lanka. So when we went to visit the temple, it was actually a full moon day, which is a holiday in Sri Lanka. The temple was therefore full of local people who were participating in different ceremonies and just being there to celebrate. We had a guided tour around the whole temple, and it was really interesting to see each part of the temple and also see a bit of the history combined with the Buddhism. We had the rest of the afternoon to explore Kandy and do a bit of shopping. So first of all, we had our lunch, and at the same place there was also a silk shop where we could go and buy some local silk scarves at a high quality. We went to visit a wood carving shop where we could see how they had different types of wood and how they make the famous wooden mask that Sri Lanka is actually really known for. Then we went into the center of Kandy to go to see some of the local shops and also some of the markets. Before heading back to Ambalangoda, we went to a supermarket and we bought some snacks because we do have a couple hours drive to get back to the volunteer house. Altogether, this has been such a beautiful weekend, and I'm so happy to have seen Lion Rock and also to see Kandy. So I hope you feel a bit inspired and would like to join the weekend trip.